62% of the corn had reached the silking stage. That was about on par for the 5-year average. Kansas, that number at 61%, just 3 percentage points below the 5-year average for Kansas. In Nebraska, 56% at the silking stage. That number was 8 percentage points below the 5-year average. Otherwise, still looking at some unsettled weather with some shower storm chances around the area for today into tonight, as we say, with a little break from the heat before things ramp back up this weekend. I'm Paul Trombley.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Our attorney says Jeffrey Epstein's imprisoned co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, cooperated fully with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who questioned Maxwell yesterday. Convicted of sex trafficking, she is serving 20 years in a prison in Florida. President Trump has toured Federal Reserve headquarters in Washington, questioning the high cost of a renovation project there, getting into a back and forth with Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, who President Trump says should lower interest rates. The House Oversight Committee investigating former President Biden's cognitive state during his time in the White House and use of the auto pen has interviewed former Biden Chief of Staff Ron Klain. On Wall Street, stock futures are mixed. The Dow futures are up 39 points, while the NASDAQ futures are 9 points in the red. More details at srnnews.com.
A couple years ago, I was in the bathroom at the airport when I dropped my smartphone in the toilet. Not smart. I was multitasking when I should have been focused on the job at hand. Embarrassing, but I'm not alone. According to Google, 7 million other multitaskers accidentally dropped their phones into the bowl last year. A gentle reminder that right now you can get yourself a brand new Samsung Galaxy A36 absolutely free with a $35 plan from Pure Talk. The A36 comes with scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass and a battery that'll last all day, along with unlimited talk, text, and data on America's most dependable 5G network. In other words, it's tough and smart. Something to think about next time you're multitasking in the necessary. Just dial pound 250, say keyword Mike Rowe to get your free phone today. You can make the switch in just 10 minutes. That's pound 250. Say Mike Rowe to switch to a no-nonsense smartphone and a company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
Your home for Goodland High School athletics. Fort Hays Tech Northwest Tech Tiger basketball, the Denver Broncos, as well as the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer. You're listening to Goodland's Rocket 102.5, KKCI FM, Goodland Colby, an NWKS radio station. Big deals are rolling at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Drive off in a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 with $3,750 purchase allowance or 0% APR for 36 months and no payments for 90 days. Upgrade to the Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,750 off or 0% for 36 months. Or go big with the Sierra 3500 Pro. $2,750 off or 3.9% for 48 months. Don't wait. Stop by Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Some morning clouds and fog, then becoming partly cloudy this afternoon with southeast winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Highs will reach into the upper 80s, and storms moving off the front range this afternoon may reach the Kansas-Colorado border by sunset, but are expected to weaken and fall apart. Overnight, skies will clear and lows will settle in the mid-60s. Tomorrow will be sunny and hot with southwesterly winds at 10 to 15 miles per hour, pushing temperatures into the mid to upper 90s and lows in the mid to upper 60s. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, high pressure builds from the southeast over the area, leads to sunny, dry, and hot condition, highs in the upper 90s to low 100s, and there will be a potential for a heat advisory along and east of Highway 83, where dew points will be in the 60s and heat indexes could reach 105. Overnight lows will run 65 to 70. Weather change Tuesday night and Wednesday, leading to a chance for showers and storms, and highs in the 80s. This meteorologist Chris Schromick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
Are pests making your home or business uncomfortable? Call Pestaway in Goodland, Kansas, serving all of Northwest Kansas. They provide top-notch pest control services to keep your space safe and pest-free. From ants to rodents, termites to spiders, our expert team is here to help with effective, safe, and affordable pest control solutions. Don't wait. Call Pestaway today at 785-728-7166 for fast, reliable service. Your home or business deserves the best protection.
It's time for the Logan County Fair, and the Farmers State Bank of Oakley is proud to be involved in many of the events. Look for us clerking the 4-H food and livestock auctions, operating a ride at the Home-Owned Carnival, and participating in the parade. Remember to support our local 4-H members by viewing their projects at the fairgrounds, and be sure to arrive early at the carnival each night to take advantage of discounted wristbands sponsored by the Farmers State Bank of Oakley, a tradition of community since 1907. Member FDIC.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4! It's time for the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
I am old and I am white, and I do not understand it in any way, shape, or form.
The High Plains only local sports talk show.
Not this again.
Yes, this again.
Broadcasting live on Rocket 102.5 and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and X.
Who's got it better than that? Nobody!
Covering it all from the preps.
It's an air ball in the Colby Eagles, victorious in Hugoton.
To the pros.
The cheer is hit to left. It's deep, going back. Gurriel. It's gone. He has done it again. His second home run tonight. And the Rockies have come back to take the lead.
The Blitz is presented by Earl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank. Along with the Insurance Agency, the Farmers State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Swing drive, hammered toward right. Tatis on the run. That is gone. Donovan with a 3-run homer. They wax this ball down the left field line, and it disappears. An absolute rocket by Randy Arozarena. Go ahead, 2-run home run. It was a tracer.
And good Friday morning, everybody. Ross Volkmer back with you here for another edition of the Morning Blitz. This one I understand a little bit odd for those who are watching on Facebook. We're back on Facebook. So to run the rundown, for the last couple of days, we haven't been on live streaming on Facebook due to the fact that NWKS Radio has also been live streaming some of the events from the Thomas County Fair. Cool. Don't have any problem with that. But we're back on Facebook today, but we are not on Rocket 102.5. The way probably most people are probably tuning in right now, be like, why? We have static. So hopefully people know that you can, of course, download app, not the TuneIn. There's the TuneIn app. There's some other app. There's Simple Radio. You can listen to us through your phone that way through the NWKS Radio audio stream. And, of course, you can catch us on YouTube, X, and Facebook at NWKS Radio and watch us that way if you'd like to do so here this morning. It's just the way it is. We're having some issues with the amount of heat that we've been experiencing here over these last couple of weeks. Things. This is what happens in radio. You know, it's very for just a little bit of how the sausage is made, a little bit. So in radio, of course, out at the tower sites, which are outside of town, you know, the buildings have the transmitters in there, and the transmitters put out a lot of heat. And so there are big air conditioners out there that try to combat that as best as you possibly can. But the problem right now that we're having, at least on Rocket 102.5 and Flyover Country 97.9, which are at the same transmitter site for those who didn't know. But you've got 2 units in this one small building that create a ton of heat. And in the summertime, that gets really hot. I think it was like 120 degrees out in the building yesterday. And the air conditioner can't keep up. It's constantly running. And then that results in the air conditioner icing over. And from what I was told, iced over like a solid block of rock. And it needs to de-thaw before it can actually get going in. And we haven't gotten to that point yet. So apologies for those, once again, that love to tune in on the radio, even though they can't hear me saying this right now, but I'll say it anyway. Apologies for those who like to do that. But luckily, on the Blitz, we have multiple different ways of you tuning in and either watching and or listening. So I appreciate all those that have made the extra effort today to find your way to one of those venues, and we'll be a part of the Morning Blitz here on a Friday, July 25th. Last Friday of July 2025. Where did the summer go? I really want to know. Like, where did the summer go? I mean, we've only got a total of 6 days left? I guess 7 to 6, count today. 7 to 6, 6 to 7 days left of the summer of July, and then we're into August. And August is, you got a couple weeks there, and then school starts. And yeah, this year you've got probably a full month from now before full month plus before fall sports begins. But I don't know where the summer went. It is amazing. I saw this. I don't know where I saw it, or maybe I heard it or something, but someone was talking about, probably was a video or something like that on social media. But I saw this. Someone says, the first 25 years of your life go a lot. They seem a lot longer, and then the next 25 just seem a whole lot faster because you're not experiencing as much new things, and that may be true. But boy, I'll tell you what, these last few summers have just flown by, and this one seems to be just as fast. But hey, what can we do? In some ways, it's a good thing. In some ways, it's a good thing that we're getting out of summer and getting into fall sports time, because there's just not a lot to get to in the sports world. If we're being completely open and honest, there is just not a lot out there. I mean, every morning I get the Athletics. It's like a daily delivery thing. They email subscribers this deal. It's like, kind of just the overview of the sports world. And I like it because there's stuff that I miss and I don't think about. And so it's kind of good to kind of read through that. Alarm goes off. Sit or, grab the phone and, do some doom scrolling in the morning while you wake up. And so it's one of those things I read in the morning while I'm waking up. And this morning I had to laugh because the opening thing that they were talking about today was, what should we watch and how to pass the summer sports lull. That was the headline. And honest to goodness, they had a whole list of things like, if you like this, then you need to watch this, you need to watch that. I kid you not. That was the whole story of the first of this whole deal. So they were talking about, of course, the big one was today on Netflix, the release of Happy Gilmore 2, which don't get me wrong, I am super stoked to watch that. Happy Gilmore 2 is out. And I do look forward to watching that. Yes, there is hard knocks training camp with the Buffalo Bills coming up here August 5th. That's still a couple weeks away. Pretty close. 10 to 12 days away. So, yeah, I mean, and then the funny thing is reading some of this, that's a lot of stuff I've already watched. I mean, I already have. I mean, being the sports guy that I am, I know all the sports shows and stuff. And so I've watched them all when I've got some time. So, yeah, it is truly the dog days of summer, and it when the daily delivery from the Athletic is talking about what else to watch besides sports. So it makes me chuckle. It makes me chuckle a little bit. But we'll try to do our best to push through here on today's program. We will be visiting with Henry Chisholm of DNVR Sports. He covers the Denver Broncos. We will get an update there with him on what is going on there with Denver Broncos. This camp is going, and we'll be visiting with him and getting his thoughts. President Trump has signed an executive order to help college sports. I don't know if I understand it fully, but I'll try to break it down for as best I possibly can coming up in segment 3. And here in just a matter of moments, I would love your help if you'd like to give me some of your thoughts and opinions on the F&B Bank text line of underrated and overrated NFL teams going into the 2025 season. There was another article that the Athletic put out talking about their most overrated, underrated ones. And then they asked the public who they thought the most overrated, underrated ones were. The Chiefs and the Broncos made those lists. So we'll discuss that, and I'll give my thoughts on overrated and underrated teams. But anyway, we'll do overrated, underrated NFL teams coming up here in just a matter of seconds. But I did want to get to one big local, I don't know if I would call it huge local news deal. It's just kind of off-season stuff. But Kansas head basketball coach, if you did not hear, Bill Self is recovering after being hospitalized yesterday as he went procedure to have a couple of stents put in. According to KU, though, Bill is in good spirits, expect to make a full recovery. Remember, in 2023, he had a similar heart issue and, of course, made it back. So I expect him to be back and make a full recovery, like they said. But he was hospitalized yesterday and had to have a couple of stents put in. The stress of running Kansas basketball is elite, and trying to build that roster back up after a tough season last year apparently did some damage to old Bill's heart, and so he had to have a little bit of work done here yesterday. Okay, FNB Bank text line open at 785-899-2222. Let's see here. Actually, before we get it, we have a question on the text line this morning. In the spirit of the reunion, yes, once again, Goodland reunion, Goodland High School reunion, which I also like to include the other area schools, Canorado and Edson, which, by the way, interesting note here. If anyone who's listening, which I doubt there's anyone listening right now that has this stuff, but if there's anyone that is listening or knows someone that has any old Canorado or Edson sports gear, if they have an old jersey or uniform or something like that, I would love to have it for the studio. So if you would, if you have the text line, you got the 785-899-2222. If you text me, I'll send you some information to how we can get that stuff. I would love to have some old Canorado Cub gear or some old Edson Rocket gear in this. I think it would be very, very cool to have it here on the wall behind me or within the studio. So if you have that, would love to do that. But anyway, here's the question from our FNB Bank text line texter. In the spirit of the reunion, what has been your best GHS moments from the last 3 years since the last reunion? Ooh, what a great question. Let's see. Well, I mean, there's no doubt in the last 3 years, if you want to go back, there's no doubt that Goodland Cowgirl basketball winning a state basketball title for the first time in 40 years, winning back-to-back titles, no doubt is probably number one. Number two, number two, probably going to have to go with boys basketball, making a return to the state basketball tournament for the first time, I think, in 30 years, and been since the 90s. Well, no, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's been a while. And so for Cowboy basketball to make it back to the state tournament, even though I do believe that they probably should have won a state championship, and it didn't happen. That's just the way it goes sometimes, but it would have been really cool to see that. If the boys could have gotten it done and made it and won a state title. I know they came so close in back-to-back years. Hutch has kind of become a special place to me because I've always joked, Goodland has spent so much time there the last handful of years that I should almost have a vacation home there during state basketball because Goodland is there and they play for all 3 days. It's been really, really cool to see. It was great to see Goodland baseball make it to state. It was a lot of fun for me personally to get to call baseball from Twainton Family Stadium there. So that was cool to see. I did really love that. So those, in my personal opinion, my best GHS moments from the last 3 years have probably been whether it was girls winning back-to-back state titles, boys playing for state championships in basketball, baseball making it to the state tournament. Probably my 3 favorite moments for GHS. Honestly, those are probably my top 3. If I'm going back and recollecting, which honestly, if you go back and if you recollect, if you want to go back and just kind of go back and think about things, it wasn't that long ago that things were in a rough spot for GHS athletics. I remember one year, probably back before COVID, where I was joking with some people back home, and I said, it was a tough year this year. Between volleyball, football, men's and women's basketball, they won a total maybe of 10 games. It was tough. And so that was extremely low tide, as I like to call it. Right now, Goodland has been a part of high tide, probably at the peak of high tide. Oh, Diane on Facebook. Diane, if you have, I will get you some information, Diane. That is fantastic. She has an Edson Rockets girls basketball jersey. I'd love it. I would absolutely love it, Diane. That would be great. I'll be in contact with you, Diane. Don't you worry. Like I said, I would love to have any old Canorado or Edson sports gear. It would be sweet to have in the studio. But anyway, Yeah, I would say for the texture there, that would be the three things. Once again, the state tournaments have been so much fun, and to not only go to the state tournaments, but to have success at the state tournaments has probably been the highlight for me personally. And I'm not a Goodland alumnus, but it has been fun to see the kids have that kind of success. It really has been a ton of fun. So those would probably be my best memories or moments from the last 3 years since the last reunion, probably in there. Been a lot of success. I mean, Goodland football was fun this last year. Probably should have been more, honestly, if I stick in the sports side of things. So, yeah, those are probably some of the, like I said, my best moments, particularly in the sports world of things, if I'm being completely honest. So, great question, though. Love the question on the FB Bank text line from the unnamed texter at 785-899-2222. Once again, welcome back, alumni. And for any of alumni who are listening and have any cool old Edson Rocket or Canaredo Cub flags or jerseys or uniforms, I would love to see it. That would be super, super cool, and I'd love to have them for our studio to display behind me. So anyway, let's move on. And like I said, Diane, I see your message on Facebook. Thank you, and I will be in contact with you. Don't you worry, after the show. I will hit you up after the show. I would do it now, but I'm a one-man show, and it's hard to do more than two things at once, and most of the times I'm doing 3 or 4, and so I can't add 5 to that list. All right, let's move on here. Once again, welcome back, alumni, and if you're listening, appreciate you tuning in. Glad you're back with us here in Northwest Kansas. As we push along here on the show, we'll have DNVR Broncos reporter Henry Chisholm joining us in just about a moment, but I want to talk a little bit of NFL. We haven't done a lot of that yet, and The Athletic put out a poll recently, back a couple weeks ago, had a story put out by Mike Jones talking about who he thought were the most overrated and underrated teams in the NFL coming into this upcoming season. Overrated teams that he had on here included the Buffalo Bills, the San Francisco 49ers, the Detroit Lions of all teams, which I do find interesting, Cincinnati Bengals. I also find that one very interesting, are his 4 teams, or the teams that he named as overrated. I could understand the Bills. You know, they have Josh Allen, but what else do they have behind him? I could maybe understand the 49ers a little bit. They had a lot of bad contracts that were kind of that they needed to get rid of or make some moves on, and they did that, and some of that resulted in some guys, coming to the Broncos, like Talanoa Hufanga, who is now over in the Mile High City. So they had to get younger and they had to get cheaper, is one thing they had to do, particularly with awarding Brock Purdy a whole lot of money. So I don't know, the 49ers probably may not be as good as they were. I don't know if I want to throw the Lions in that category. The Lions have so much talent, but they did lose both their offensive and defensive coordinators. They did lose the heart of their offensive line. Their center, Frank Ragnow, he retired, and then Kevin Zeitler was a free agency loss. So I know I still feel like if they can stay healthy, the Lions just got ravaged by injuries last year, but I feel like if they can stay healthy, they can still be a really good team. And the Bengals are a team, I don't know if I like that at all, but here's the thing about the Bengals. Last year, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and what Joe Burrow did in that season. I mean, he was in the MVP conversation, firmly in the MVP conversation, and they had a horrific season where they about finished 500 or below. That was with a horrific defense. Lou Anarumo is no longer there. Al Golden, by the way, has replaced him. I always remember Al Golden was in college football. He would wear a tie and a white shirt, and he'd be sweated through the shirt and almost be sweating so much it would come through the tie when he coached down at Miami. I always thought that was funny. But anyway, Al Golden replaced him. Here's the thing about it. I feel like in defense, if you can get the right person in there and get the right players in the right position and get them understanding your scheme, you can have a very, very, very quick turnaround. Offense, not so much. Defense and special teams, you can turn those around, I feel like, in the course of a year. But it's hard to do it on offense. So I feel like the Bengals are a team to watch out for, because I think if Al Golden gets that defense in any sort of improvement, they're going to be good. So I would say, I don't know if I'd say that the Bengals are overrated. Underrated teams, according to the Athletics, once again, Mike Jones, he threw out there the LA Chargers are underrated. I've always felt like they have a ton of pieces if they could just ever put it together, although their wide receiver core has just never really seemed to put together, but they got a great quarterback. One team that I do not see this is the Dallas Cowboys. In fact, the Dallas Cowboys, to me, should be in the overrated one. They always get too much love, and they don't do anything. So I would say the Cowboys are an overrated team, even though he thinks them underrated. And then the Cardinals and the Jaguars round out this. Look, the Cardinals have one of the more intriguing quarterbacks in the entire league, I personally think, in the Arizona Cardinals with him and Kyler Murray. I think he's unbelievable. I love watching him because not only is he an elusive runner and just is a magician, and he's like a snake, a worm. He just kind of finds his way all the way in and out. And I think it's so cool to watch him do that. But to have such a, and then to have the ability to make really good throws, and he's got a really good wide receiver now in Marvin Harrison. They need a few more weapons, but I could see the Cardinals having a decent season. And the Jaguars, the other team, and look, the Jaguars, I feel like they've always had, I feel like Trevor Lawrence, if they could keep him healthy and he could get some help, I always felt like he could be a really good quarterback. I loved him in college. They have Travis Hunter now. We'll see how that all plays out, but I feel like they have pieces. I feel like the Jaguars have underperformed the last couple of years. They've been worse than what they probably should have been. That's just my opinion. But that was the Athletics view of this. So then they went and they asked the people and got there on the most overrated, underrated teams. The most overrated team in the NFL, according to the Athletics listeners and readers, that would be the Packers by a long ways. 34% of the vote went to the Packers, followed by the Texans, the Commanders, which is amazing that they're in the overrated deal, Vikings, and then the Chiefs at 8%, which is also amazing. They're in the overrated. The Packers, I don't know. I can maybe see it because Jordan Love has had issues with turnovers. I could see that he really has struggled with turnovers. But I don't know. The Packers have got a great coach, a great fan base, and I don't know. I kind of just feel like as if they're always going to be a pretty solid team. The Texans have some really good pieces and a good quarterback. Like the Commanders is probably the one that, I get why people put the Chiefs and the Packers up there to an extent. It's because they're very popular franchises and people get tired of hearing about them. That's why I'm surprised the Cowboys are up there, but I guess they're America's team. But nonetheless, the Commanders, they've added all these pieces. They've gotten a bunch of people to come. Last year they added all these pieces with Jalen Daniels or Jaden Daniels, not Jalen. I got to get my Jadens right, but Jaden Daniels, who was fantastic. Now, maybe he'll have a sophomore slump. Maybe he won't. I don't know. But they've added more good pieces, veteran and younger pieces this year. So I don't know. I feel like the Commanders could be in a spot to one of those teams once again to have a really, really good season this year. I don't know why they wouldn't. I could understand why the Vikings are. You don't know anything about J.J. McCarthy. They have other pieces, but their quarterback is a massive question. And the Chiefs, once again, they're only in this point because, they are, they've been just so good and people are tired of them. It's lonely at the top, if you want to put it that way. By the way, if you want to chime in with your most overrated and underrated teams in the NFL, I'd love to hear from them on the FB Bank text line at 785-899-2222. But, most overrated NFL team, according to listeners and readers of The Athletic, they say it is the Packers at this point in time. I don't know. Once again, I just always go to the Cowboys because every year there's expectations for Dallas, and every year they fail. Just feels like it every year. So I guess the Dallas Cowboys would always be on my most overrated teams. Teams that have high expectations every year but never seem to live up to them, that would be them. So I would say that for sure. Let's move into underrated here real quick because we got to get to a break, and Henry Chisholm's going to join us next. The top team of underrated by 29% of the vote, the Denver Broncos, the most underrated team in the NFL. Once again, it says here, rookie quarterback Bo Nix led the team to a playoff berth, and monstrous additions this offseason have people in Denver thinking about rings. If Nix could improve in year two underneath Sean Payton, you've got Pat Surtain, Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bonito, Zach Allen are great, so on and so forth. I don't know. The Broncos do have a lot of pieces. They really, really do. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I would disagree with that. They've got a lot of good pieces. They are kind of overlooked for a long time. They are building this thing back up. We'll see how good it is. I would agree that the Bengals are underrated. I think that they're going to have a really good bounce back year. I would say that. The other teams on here, the Niners, the Chargers, and the Steelers as underrated teams. We'll see about the Steelers. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, if he could provide something there, that'd be great. Chargers, I always feel like have a chance to be good. I would say that I would agree with them on underrated. 49ers, I know that I would be one thing about the 49ers, I'll give them this. They may be young, but they do know how to evaluate talent. So maybe that because they even though they had to get younger and lose some very talented and popular players, even they brought in some younger guys, maybe that's going to allow them to be successful and continue to be pretty darn successful, even with younger players. Maybe that's what's going to happen. But I would not put them as most underrated teams in the NFL. I would agree with the Bengals and the Broncos at the top, though. I think those teams are massively overlooked, and I think they're going to have really, really good 2025 seasons. I really do think that. So there you go. Overrated, underrated NFL teams heading into the 2025 season. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to be joined on the phone by our good friend from DNVR Broncos. That would be Henry Chisholm. He'll join us next to talk a little bit about everything that's going on in the Denver Broncos training camp as they get ramped up for this 2025 season. That's next here on the Morning Blitz.
The black and gold is shining a little brighter this weekend because you're back. It's Alumni Weekend in Goodland, and whether your tassel turned in 69 or 2019, we're glad to have you home. Reconnect with classmates, swap some stories, and relive the good old times. The town may have changed, but the pride runs just as deep. From your hometown to your heart, welcome back GHS alumni. Once a cowboy, always a cowboy. Happy Alumni Weekend, Goodland, from all of us here at NWKS Radio.
Know someone who struggles to read because of blindness, low vision, or other challenges? The State Library of Kansas can help with free programs such as NFB Newsline and Talking Books. Eligible users can access hundreds of newspapers and magazines with NFB Newsline by phone, mobile app, or smart speaker. Talking Books offers thousands of books and materials too. Stay informed and connected. Learn more at library.ks.gov/newsline. Brought to you by the National Federation of the Blind and State Library of Kansas.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Tom Saluto with the Anderson Trade Group with your overnight market report on July the 25th. In the overnight session, September corn was down 2 at $3.99, beef down 2 at $4.18.5, and March down 2 at $4.36. August soybeans are down 6 at $9.97.5, Sep soybeans down 6 at $9.92, and No down 6 at $10.17. Kansas City hard red winter wheat September was down 3 at $5.25, beef down 3 at $5.46, and March down 2 at $5.67. The Dow Jones is currently at 57 points at 44,955. S&P is up 6 points at 6,407. NASDAQ is down 9 points at 23,368. Gold is down 33 points at 3,340. And crude oil is slightly up at 66.48 per barrel. If you're out in the Colorado area and have any grain to market or risk management questions, please call John Hankey or John Stiles at 970-744-4484. Or you can call the Overland Park office. Myself, Tom Saluto, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000. Thank you.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated, is not indicative of future results. The Anderson Trade Group has no guarantee that the advice given will result in profitable trades.
This season, armyworm better watch out. Because your wheat is protected by Lumavia CPL insecticide seed treatment with a unique mode of action that starts at the seed, then moves through the plant to protect it from roots to shoots for strong stand establishment and better yield potential. Army worms, you're out of here. Learn more at corteva.us/Lumavia CPL.
Turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing.
Mo and Matt and Michaela Cow said M&M Supply continues with deals on Hustler mowers. A good supply with discounts on some closeouts right now. Different models, different sizes, financing available. They'll take your trade-ins. You know, they work on all types of different riding mowers, but they do carry Hustler mowers, Hustler parts. Hustlers made right here in Kansas, USA. They carry cordless DeWalt tools like DeWalt lodge edgers, chainsaws, trimmers, 20 or 60 watt. Yeah, they'll keep on growing, so you keep on mowing at M&M Supply, rural Edson, Kansas.
From the headlines to the highlights.
It's good! The Wildcats are champions of the Big 12!
This is the Morning Blitz.
One thing that I have failed to mention here over the last couple of days, unfortunately, sometimes it just slips my mind, but I did want to pass along that coming up this Saturday at Grinnell, Kansas, at the fire station, they need volunteers. It's the final cleanup effort for Grinnell, the recovery for the tornado that happened there a month or so ago. Rakes, dump trailers, skid steers, chainsaws will be needed. Once again, they're trying to clean up Grinnell. Their final cleanup that is once again this Saturday, July 26th. That's going to be at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. You want to check in at the fire station. They'll have water and lunch provided, but they do need your help, does the city of Grinnell. So if you have nothing going on this weekend, would like to win yourself a beautiful Sunshine Award, as I like to call it back home. That was when you did something great for the community. Well, volunteers are needed once again to help clean up Grinnell. That's check in at the fire station, 7:30 a.m. Central Time on Saturday. Water and lunch provided. Will be a hot day, but do it for a good cause. All right, let's get to the phones. Waiting patiently on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline is our good friend from DNVR Broncos. That's Henry Chisholm. Henry, how we doing? How's the summer been, my friend? Done anything exciting or fun?
Yeah, we just got back to Montana. That's where I grew up, and took about a week up there in the northwest corner of Montana before getting back last night because training camp starts in about 2 hours.
Where are you from in Montana, and what do you love to do when you go back home?
I'm from Columbia Falls, Montana, so right outside Glacier Park, about 50 miles, probably south of the Canadian border and pretty close to Idaho, so way up in the corner. Love rafting, do a lot of rafting, do some hiking up in the park. I wasn't the most outdoorsy when I was up there, but then when you leave, you realize how much you miss it. And so we take a week or two every summer to go up there and kind of get it all out of our systems.
I mean, you had to live in one of the more beautiful parts of America, didn't you? Probably when you look back at it.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. And you're so used to it. Like you're up there. We're climbing down a mountain it was probably Friday night. And it was dark because we were up there for the sunset. And we were just walking down the trail and something was growling at us. And so we had stopped to have like some trail mix, and it's like, oh, there's something in those woods. We better keep moving. And a group behind us said the same thing happened to them right there too. So it's a really cool place. It's kind of the middle of nowhere, but for a week or two, it's a great place to be.
Sometimes the middle of nowhere is the most beautiful, though. That's just the way it is. So Henry Chisholm, our guest from DNVR Sports, covers the Denver Broncos, helps cover the Denver Broncos for them. Henry, how excited are you to get back and get to work covering this Broncos team? There seems to be a lot of excitement around Denver here, getting ready for the 2025 season.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a lot of fun. This is definitely the most optimistic people have been in probably at least since 2016. So you come off the Super Bowl win 2015. Peyton retires. We know it's going to be a different team. Still a lot of optimism heading into that 2016 season. But ever since then, I would say that this is the year that Broncos fans are most excited for, just because of all the pieces that are in place. The defense built the way that it is. Bo Nix doing what he did last year and kind of expecting a little bit of a jump. And I think the big thing for the Broncos is they really didn't lose anybody. They were able to keep the whole team together and then go out in free agency and add a few more pieces. Evan Ingram, Tauno Funga, Dre Greenlaw, go to the draft and add a first-round cornerback, add a couple other guys in the draft who should be pretty important this season. I think that's where the excitement comes from. First playoff appearance in 10 years was last year. You get to run back the exact same team with a little bit more experience, with a few more pieces added onto the top. it's easy to get excited about.
Who do you think, in your opinion, we'll just say that, in your opinion, who is the most intriguing new addition that will make the most impact, you feel like, this year?
That's tough. To me, wow, that's really tough. I'll go Evan Ingram. I think the word intriguing in particular is why I go Evan Ingram. Just because, it's a guy who was a first-round draft pick, freak athlete. I think maybe the only tight end in the history of the combine to run a 4.42 40-yard dash. So you see the athleticism there with him. And at times his career showed up. A couple of years ago, he had 114 catches for the Jaguars. At other points, he's been a little bit quiet. And I think having somebody in that mold in this offense is really exciting because we've seen what Sean Payton has done with those sorts of versatile players before, at tight end in particular. Jimmy Graham, Jeremy Shockey back in the day, Jason Witten, I believe he crossed over with when he was coaching as the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. So to see what Evan Ingram could be, especially as the only, I don't want to say maybe only real new face on the offense. You have J.K. Dobbins, you have R.J. Harvey. But with Dobbins, there's the question marks with the injuries, with, a little lack of production late last season. R.J. Harvey's a rookie. And this is the guy you brought in to upgrade your offense in Evan Ingram. He's the guy who's supposed to raise both the floor and the ceiling. Whereas, there's a few of those guys on defense with Dre Greenlaw, Tano Funga. On offense, it really is just we're bringing in Evan Ingram, and he's going to help fix this offense. And I think the ways that you can deploy him are going to be kind of fun to watch.
Once again, Henry Chisholm is our guest here on the Morning Blitz, talking some Denver Broncos. You mentioned Bo Nix, and there's a lot of excitement about him in year two. How can he improve? And there was stories, he was spending time with Drew Brees, trying to help himself figure out Sean Payton and the system that they do a little bit more. But is there much concern, if any, that he could possibly have a little bit of a step back due to a sophomore slump?
It's always a concern. It's always a concern. I kind of wish during the offseason I would have gone back and just looked through all the rookie quarterbacks over the past, 30 years and seen what happened in their second year, whether they improved or whether they took a step back. Sophomore slump, I think the phrase just sounds so good, the alliteration that sticks around a little bit more. We've definitely seen it in some guys. We've seen other guys just blow right through it. But I think just because we've seen it before, that's the reason why there's concern. There's nothing about Bo in particular that would suggest that there would be any kind of slump. I think that, he works so hard. He hasn't had a real off season. And so long because, last year he has the entire draft process with the combine, with the draft. You immediately get to Denver and start getting to work so that you can be a starting quarterback. Year before that, they have the spring practices. It's a new offense up there. So he, for the first time since, I believe, his days in Auburn, has had a chance to kind of sit back for a month or two before, going meeting with Drew Brees for a week, doing all those sorts of things. You should see him pretty well rested. I know the Broncos wanted to do some mechanical stuff, some footwork type stuff to try to find just a little bit more consistency. But there's nothing you would look at and say, he should be taking a step back this year. There's just a lot of reasons to say, like, hey, there's, the first 4 weeks of last season, he really struggled. Statistically, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. From there, figured things out, improved, was great. If you just start with where you were last year and cut out the first 4 weeks of last season, your stats should take a pretty significant step forward, just because you don't have those first 4 weeks weighing you down. So there's a lot of those little things you look at and say, this should be, at least on paper, a more productive season. But yeah, we've seen the sophomore slump before. If it happens, at this point, it feels like you can't really be surprised about it.
What about the running back spot? J.K. Dobbins, I love that signing, but he's dealt with injuries. R.J. Harvey, I think they're still struggling to get signed at this point in time. But how do you think that running back spot kind of plays out over the course of the season?
It's interesting. I think that, that's one of the spots where the Broncos knew they had to get better. You look at where they made additions, right there and at tight end, those are kind of the two spots where you look at and say, we have to be better in 2025 than we were in 2024. I'm curious what they would have done in their dream world. The Broncos really wanted Ashton Genty. It sounds like they were making calls trying to get up there, but when the Raiders draft him at number 6, there's just nothing you can do. The free agent market, there weren't a whole bunch of names out there. Najee Harris, not everybody's cup of tea, and he was kind of the top guy in the class. So when that happens, you're left to your maybe plan Bs. When you sign J.K. Dobbins in May, I believe, it might even be a plan C, but somebody that they've been in contact with over the course of the offseason. Had a good game against Denver last year. Just was a little bit streaky. Those first 2 weeks of the season, he was awesome. He led the NFL in rushing after week 2. But the rest of the way, he averaged about 3.8 yards per carry, had an injury in there. It's tough to look at the numbers and see a clear picture of who he is. Early in his career, great production. Obviously, the extensive injury history makes it tough to even say that he's going to be on the field consistently in any given season. But he is somebody who's played a lot of football at this point. Really smart running back. Should be better at reading what's in front of him than the Broncos running backs were last year. It's just whether he still has the explosiveness to make those big plays. He's coming off injury last year, as he typically was. So was it the freshness that was allowing him to break off those big runs in the first 2 weeks? Was it the injury history? Was it the lack of conditioning? Whatever that could have caused him to slow down? Who knows? If he can avoid that slowdown this year, there's no reason he can't be a 1,000-yard rusher. With RJ Harvey, explosive running back, can turn any run into a touchdown. Just total breakaway speed. They can give him the ball in a bunch of different ways as a receiver, out of the backfield. But he's a rookie, and so before you actually see him out there playing against NFL players, it's tough to know exactly what he'll look like. So there's a lot of excitement there. It's just figuring out, do you actually have a guy? Because I think one of the things that was interesting the past couple of days, Quinn Miners, all-pro guard, said that they have a new approach to the running game this year, which is interesting. It's something that I want to dig into over the course of this training camp and figure out what's going on there. Is it more zone stuff, more gap-heavy systems? I'm curious what they're doing, because a lot of things just didn't add up last year. By run block win rate, ESPN stats, where they look at, okay, this guy was blocking this guy. Did he win or did he lose? Over the course of the season, the Broncos were first in the NFL in run block win rate, but they were average in total rushing yards, and they were in the 20s in rushing efficiency. So there were just these pieces that didn't line up. We all look to the running backs, and hopefully this is a group that can kind of figure things out. But the run game just wasn't living up to the talent level last year. And it sounds like the Broncos, obviously personnel-wise, have made a bunch of changes, but maybe even schematically have some more ideas about how to kick it up a notch this year.
Henry Chisholm continue to be our guest from DNVR Broncos. You mentioned the discussion of Quinn Miners and the offensive line. I mean, offensive and defensive lines is where games are won and lost in football. How do you think Denver stacks up this year in those two departments?
They just bluntly have a chance to be the best. Like I said, number one in pass or run block win rate last year, number one in pass block win rate. And so you look at those two things and say, how is this not the best offensive line in the NFL? And you just need to see a tick more production. The pass protection's there. As long as they stay healthy, Bo gets the ball out so quickly. We saw it last year. There's really no reason to be concerned about the pass protection. It's just, can you build the dominant running game that feels like you have all the pieces for? When Sean Payton first came to Denver, those were his investments: offensive line, defensive line. He goes out and gives the massive contract to the right tackle, Mike McGlinchey, the left guard, Ben Powers, and they kind of roll from there. Quinn Miners is becoming a star in that time. Garrett Bowles, the left tackle, has been a solid, at worst, tackle for the past half decade. So you started to see all the pieces come together. It's just the results were pretty streaky last year. So offensive line, if they wind up being one of the very best in the league, you can't be surprised by it. At the same time, if the run game is, outside the top 10, you can't be surprised by that either, just because they weren't the most productive last year, despite the talent. Defensively, again, you're talking about a team that led the NFL in sacks last year, set the Broncos franchise record for sacks in a single season, and they've had a bunch of guys who can get after the quarterback in the past. You bring back that entire group. Some of them are young guys, Nick Benito, Jonah Ellis. You're hoping for them to even take a step from where they were, all while finding a way to keep, DJ Jones, your nose tackle, who doesn't get as much of the shine, but Zach Allen, who's an all-pro, says that the reason they're able to get all those sacks is because of the work that DJ Jones does on first and second down to set up 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, where you're trying to rush the passer. So the expectations are high. The trenches are where Sean Payton has really built this team out. And like you said, that's how you win games in the NFL. There's a reason that's why that's the reason why he invested in those spots. It's a new year though, and you go out there and you compete, and we'll see where exactly they stack up.
Henry, I'll let you go on this question here. We've talked here for the last 20 minutes or so, and great information, insight, and you hear a lot of positive things. I mean, if there is an area of concern that has you worried a little bit about this upcoming season, at least early on, what do you think it'll be?
Well, we'll start with, the defense. Regression happens more on defense than offense. Offense from year to year to year production across the NFL is generally more consistent. The Broncos defense was really good last year. Can you actually have 60 sacks again this season? There's always a level of flukiness when you're first in the NFL in something. So if that defense regresses, even just a little bit, the talent is better, but you take a slight step back because of bad luck or injuries or whatever it may be. Do you have the firepower on offense to make up for that? And I think the run game is where I look to say, if you can just turn this into a top 10 rushing group, the sky is really the limit for you. But you're putting a lot of faith in J.K. Dobbins, who at times has looked like that kind of guy, but more often than not hasn't looked like that guy, and maybe hasn't even been on the field. And then a rookie. Passing game, you throw Evan Ingram in, should be slightly upgraded, but a lot of things stay the same. The run game is where you need to see that step, so that if you see some bad luck this year, you're not able to go, I think it was 8-1 against teams that were teams that missed the playoffs. If you wind up having fluky plays against teams that you should be beating, you just have the juice to overcome that. And, they might not, but it seems pretty clear that if the Broncos are going to be a Super Bowl contender, a team that can make a deep playoff run, it's probably going to come down to the run game. And, can you keep up the defense from last year? One of the 2 or 3 best in the NFL.
Henry Chisholm, DNVR Broncos reporter. Thank you, Henry, so much. Glad you're back. Glad you're back and getting to work there for DNVR again this year. Look forward to visiting throughout the season and enjoy some camp. We'll be talking soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Once again, great stuff there from Henry Chisholm here on the Morning Blitz. Yeah, there's a lot of positive things going on there over in Denver. A lot of positive things. Lots of positivity. Just see if they can build. I think if Bo Nix can prevent having a little bit of a slump as a sophomore, I think they could have a really good chance. They could help that cause by getting a little bit more efficient in the run game. That's my opinion. I think their defense will be really good, though. I think that'll continue. Okay, let's get to a break. We'll come back. We got about 7 minutes left to go in the show this week, and we'll come back. We'll wrap up the show with some thoughts on what President Trump did yesterday, and get to the walk-off as well next on the Blitz.
NWKS Radio's Rock the Block. Play the game, complete the fun challenges, score points to collect entries to win the Rock the Block grand prize package that includes us bringing our NWKS rolling radio trailer to your neighborhood to rock the block by playing music and throwing a party, plus a backyard prize package worth all your neighbors' envy. Guess what? We're also throwing in giveaways throughout the game. So start playing Rock the Block now. Text ROCK to 785-460-0790 for more information.
Big deals are rolling at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas. Drive off in a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 with $3,750 purchase allowance or 0% APR for 36 months and no payments for 90 days. Upgrade to the Sierra 1500 Denali and get up to $5,750 off or 0% for 36 months. Or go big with the Sierra 3500 Pro. $2,750 off or 3.9% for 48 months. Don't wait. Stop by Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today or shop online at hurlchev.com.
Summer is heating up, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby has everything you need to make the most of it. Tame that lawn with top-notch weed and feed from Ultimate Fertilizer, and keep those bugs away with powerful pesticides. Plus, Ego mower blowers and trimmers to get that job done fast. Fire up some summer flavor with a Traeger grill or a Blackstone griddle, and if you're building a fence or even fixing a sprinkler, they've got the building materials and supplies to keep your projects moving. Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, your summer project headquarters.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
At FNB Bank, we know family comes first. Whether you're opening a savings account for your kids, buying a new home, or planning for the future, we're here to help every step of the way. With personalized service and flexible options, we make banking easy for your growing family. FNB Bank, serving families, strengthening communities. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Quick hits, bold takes, and all the action.
I'll take that action.
Welcome back to the Morning Blitz.
All right, just a couple minutes left to go on the show today. Thanks again to Henry Chisholm. Thanks again to the text line for chiming in. I had more texts coming in early in Henry's conversation talking about the overrated, underrated. Texts are getting in here saying overrated teams he's picking would be the Chargers. They always get picked to win the AFC West and end up squeaking into the playoffs if they make it at all. The Bengals, he also has overrated. You have to have a defense to win football games. They don't have one. They didn't have one last year. And now I know they have to get Trey Hendrickson signed, and he's in Jacksonville and all that stuff. Like I said earlier in the show, Texter, you can bring in a new DC, and if you can get guys to buy in and do all that stuff, I know that's all a big bunch of if. But if you can do all that, you put yourself in a position. I think they have a chance to turn it around pretty quickly. I really do. That's why I would not do that. But he does say underrated ones would possibly be the Bears. Sleeping on the Bears. That's a good point. Bears have a lot of talent. And their new OC, Ben Johnson from the Lions, God, you would think they'd be able to turn around. I saw a video, though, of a horrific play by Caleb Williams in a pass in camp, and I watched just one play, but still it didn't look very good on his execution of a play, but we'll see. But yeah, thanks into the text line. I did. It was interesting. Late last night, I was laying in bed, going to bed, and I was reading a little bit more on social media, and I saw some news flash up about Jaron Duran possibly getting traded to the Royals. I thought it was happening, but there's just been a bunch of smoke. Nothing officially has happened. We'll see if that does happen here over the next couple of days, though. It sounds like a lot more smoke on that story over the last 12 hours or so. Also yesterday, President Donald Trump signed an executive order directing his cabinet to create a 30-day plan aimed at preserving college sports opportunities and preventing athletes from becoming professionals. The order opposes third-party pay-for-play deals and ties federal funding to schools that maintain scholarship levels in non-revenue sports. That's a good thing to help keep non-revenue sports around. But yeah, it's they're trying to find ways. Trump supports NIL deals that reflect fair market value, but seeks to stop booster-backed salary disguises. So instead of having some big booster come in and say, well, this guy's got $1 billion. Oh, we need to get this kid. Call the booster. Okay, yeah, here's a couple $1 million for that kid to get him to come here. Trying to prevent that. It's a step in the right direction, but they need a lot more help from the congressional side of things. That is for sure in order to get this kind of cleaned up. But I guess it is somewhat of a step in the right direction. Royals and Rockies, no games yesterday. They are back on the radio waves tonight. KC taking on the Guardians in Kansas City on AM 790 KXXX. KLW, the home for the Rockies, who have won for their first 6 since the All-Star break. They are on the road in Baltimore, another team that's had a disappointing season there up in the Northeast.
High drive, deep left, grand slam! And back lifts his ball deep to right. How about a walk-off Brady? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hardman! Jackpot! Kansas City!
I did see on social media today that Colby Legion Baseball is playing in the state tournament. Well, best of luck to Colby Legion Baseball. Love the uniforms, by the way, the blue and the red. I love those. But best luck to Colby Legion Baseball as they are at the state tournament. I saw them. I saw Norton's there. I don't know where it's being played, but I wish them the best of luck. Legion Baseball holds a special place in my heart because that's what I played growing up. We didn't have club teams or anything like that. We played Legion ball, and so it's a special place in my heart. Best luck to Colby Legion Baseball as they participate in the state tournament here this weekend. And also I love this article I saw on ESPN late last night. It was from Nico Amalieva, the former quarterback at Tennessee, now at UCLA, and they had him, and he said, well, the reason I left Tennessee was because I wanted to come back home to be in California. It's like, please, Nico, that is a lie. That is a big, fat lie. You left Tennessee because you didn't get the money that you wanted, nor did you believe that Tennessee had enough weapons around you to make you a first-round draft pick. That's the truth. The truth is you did not believe that Tennessee had enough talent around you, nor were you getting enough money in your NIL deal, and you deserve more, even though you were getting a ridiculous amount. That is the reason that you had to come back home to California, because they're the only program that said, sure, we'll bring you back. He's not even making a fraction of what he was making at Tennessee. I can guarantee it. Nico, please, you're a liar. That's what you are. All right, that does it for the program today. Have a great alumni weekend, everybody. Try to stay cool. It's going to be another hot one, another cool day today. Temperatures in the 80s. Right now, cloudy and foggy in some spots, but going to be a warmer weekend. Temperatures bouncing back up into the 90s, even triple digits by the start of next week. Have a great weekend. See you back here on Monday. It's been the Blitz.
Classic rock plays here. This is Rocket 102.5. KKCI Goodland.